Today on Discovering Kazakhstan, we've come to the south of the country, to the Jambil region, where we're going to discover the ancient city of Taraz. First of all, we've come 18 kilometers away from the city to a place called Aisha Bibi, where I'm going to tell you an ancient love story from the 12th century. A very interesting tale. From the Middle Ages through to the 19th century, Kazakhstan was rich in legends. Stories relating to the Great Silk Way, kingdoms, battles, social upheaval, and of course stories of love were passed through the generations mainly by word. By a nanny, and a nanny was called Baba Hatun, and also in the Kazakh language Hatun is a suffix that's used in order to denote a woman of older years who has already had children, who has already been married, and she was like the chaperone of this young girl, of Aisha Bibi. Now, the story of Aisha Bibi is very, very sad because she never actually became a bride herself. She wanted to. She fell deeply in love with a soldier. I'll tell you more about him later. But she died before she had the chance to get married to him. And if you look at the form of this mausoleum, you can see the top of it, the cupola, is formed like the hat of a Kazakh bride. And so people love to come to this place because it denotes an eternal bride. Also, it's a religious place. You'll see as we walk around here, there'll be women that have scarves over their head to show their respect towards the religious aspect of this. Why is that? Well, her father was called Zinga Baba. Baba is a person who has great respect in Kazakhstan, so he's like an elder in the community, and he was also a religious person. At that particular time, in the 11th century, that was when Islam first came to Kazakhstan, and he was one of the first Islamic people in the country, and so people even now have got great respect for this religious person. He was the young bride's father, but he wasn't happy with her arrangement to marry the soldier, and he forbade it. And that's where the story really began, and that was the beginning of her death. Well, like other saintly places around the Republic of Kazakhstan, especially in the southern area like Turkestan, where we've visited before, this is a place where you have to pay your respects to the holy traditions here. You have to remove your shoes, come in and sit down with the other people. People come here to pray. They want to pray for their marriages particularly, so it's a good place for young brides, young grooms to come here, and the person who runs this particular mausoleum will pray on their behalf. Let's sit down with these young people and pray with them. Aisha's resting place is a tour de force of medieval architecture with its unique cupola, elegant supporting corner towers, and the terracotta tiles covering the outer surface, of which there are 60 different varieties, each of which is held firmly in place with a heavy wedged plug on its rear surface. So we've been inside the mausoleum of Aisha Bibi. Now I'll tell you a little bit more about her. Who exactly was she? Well, she came from the region of Samarkand in Uzbekistan, and she fell in love with a man, a great man, from this area of Kazakhstan. At that time, it was called Karahan, the Black Kingdom, and the leader of that area was a military man, a general, and he fell in love when he met with Aisha Bibi. As was the tradition at that time, he went to her father and asked for her hand, and her father flatly refused. He said to her and said to him, "There's no way that you're going to marry my daughter because you're from another kingdom, you're from another region, and I'm not allowing that." Well, what he said then was, I don't care what her father said. And Aisha Bibi herself didn't really care. She just wanted to be with this man. It was true love, and he didn't want her riches. She didn't want her father's riches. She just wanted to go. So, with her chaperone, she decided to leave. But her father put a curse on her and said, "You will need to cross 7 rivers. You will only cross 6 of them successfully. The 7th one, you won't be able to cross. You won't make it." Well, on her journey from Samarkand to this place here, She got across 6 rivers. She came to the 7th river, which is called Asa. She was preparing for her wedding. She was putting on the hat, the traditional hat, like the top of this mausoleum. She put this on, and inside it was a snake. It bit her, and she died. She never got to marry the true love of her life. The construction of this mausoleum is amazing. It was built between the 11th and the 12th centuries, and it was reconstructed or refurbished to its present condition about 10 years ago, after about 30 years of deciding just how they were going to reconstruct it and how they were going to do the best restoration. But you can see that these tiles, there are lots of different types of tiles on here. These are all the new ones. The ones that were done as part of the restoration, and above here you can see the original tiling from the 12th and 13th centuries, which are all beginning to deteriorate quite badly. But this is why they wanted to restore it and do this beautiful restoration. You can see actually it's raining at the moment, and that's a good sign. There's an inscription up on the wall here that says that autumn has arrived, but life again begins. And that's really what this place is a little bit about, because after the summer, people think, well, everything's starting to die again, we're coming towards winter. But in fact, it's a very good sign, because the rain comes and life begins again. And if you think about the theme of this particular mosque, well, it's true. Life does begin again, and things carry on as they did before. Now, I want to tell you a little bit more about these different tiles that are here. There are lots of different types of tiles, and they have these ornaments on them. The traditional Kazakh ornaments, there's Islamic motifs in here, and there's even crosses. If we look at it carefully, you can see that there's these stars created from these geometric patterns, and they're nested into an array that has these crosses also within them. If we look a bit further here, you can see the traditional Kazakh motifs. There are the floral motifs, like on this particular tile, and then there's the lamb's horns, the animal motif, which we've seen before, and it's a very typical Kazakh theme. If we go further down, you can see the more geometric themes that are associated with Islam, and this shows the Islamic heritage of this particular mausoleum.
The 2 mausoleums close to Taraz are absolutely unique in their construction style and have nothing even comparable in the whole of Central Asia. Their most striking features are the cupolas. The complex construction of the cupola on the Babaji Hatun mausoleum has a fluted geometry similar to a semi-folded umbrella, featuring 16 flutes.
Well, this is the smaller mausoleum of Babaji Hatun, and she was an older woman when she was looking after the young girl. And that young girl at that time was just 18 years old, so she was very young. She had a great responsibility for looking after her. Of course, when she died, she was very sad about that. And she continued to keep her responsibilities, and she looked after this mausoleum until her own death. And she was buried here, and the mausoleum is constructed to her. From here, we're going to continue on the last journey that the young lady took to meet her death. We're now going to take the journey, the last journey that Aisha Bibi took, and she didn't quite make it. Here, on this alley that we're on along here, it goes 17 kilometres back to Taraz, to the mausoleum of Karakhan, and that's where we're going now. On the way, we'll stop by at the river where the snake bit her. That's the river Asa, and it's not very far from here. It's halfway between this mausoleum and the city of Taraz.
A tributary of the Talas River which flows through the main city of the region, the Asa is one of the many waterways that flow through the Jambil area, and the 7th that Aisha Bibi had to cross on her difficult journey from Samarkand to Karakhan. It was here that the young girl met her untimely demise. Constructed in 1906, the building differs significantly in style from the mausoleums of Aisha Bibi and Babaji Khatun. Its grand entrance with a recessed archway is framed by a square wall with minarets at its edges.
This legend of love is not the only story, of course, from Kazakhstan, and we'll be telling you very many more of them in the future. I hope that you'll join us again next time as we continue on our discovery of the country in Discovering Kazakhstan. Goodbye.